Okay, I wanted to welcome everyone and thank you all for joining us. And I hope this becomes a nice learning experience for everybody and maybe a little networking, get to know each other a little bit. If you don't know who I am, I'm Nancy Ori, and I'm the curator of the exhibit. I'm also the director of the New Jersey Photography Forum, and I was also one of the jurors. So welcome. And I guess I can start by saying that, these days we've certainly had enough challenges in our lives, but all of you artists who submitted work into the show, it didn't seem to inhibit you in any way. And I guess, the whole notion of having a virtual exhibit for everyone, even those who live far away from our home base here in New Jersey, can see the show, see the images, and have an opportunity to ask questions, communicate with each other here. I think that inspired people to step up and submit some things to the exhibit. It's kind of an unusual format, if you will. The title of the show was Unframed, and we accepted everything, that was shipped to us in boxes, and people who hand delivered their work came in with their piece of paper with their image on it, and very different kind of a show for us. I did get a call from the president of the art center this week to say how wonderful she thought the show looked, and how different it was for us, because we usually hang framed work, and to do a push pin kind of a show was something maybe a little more modern for us traditionalists in the exhibit world. But it turned out really quite nicely, and I tried to pull together some images of it for you. I did send out, I guess, like a little e-card that Lenny made for us about the show. And hopefully it gave you an idea of what the room looks like. It's, for those of you who've never been there, it's a very large exhibition space. The lighting is terrific, and we normally hang about 35, 40 framed pieces max for this particular show. But since we were going to do unframed and had an opportunity then to double hang things and group things nicely together, we accepted 75 pieces. So it's literally twice as many pieces as what we normally would hang in this particular space, which I think is one of the things that Joan Plasner, the president of the Art Center, was remarking about, that because there were so many images, there was a huge variety of subject matter. And there's the mysterious stuff, thought-provoking, more contemporary things, absolutely stunning black and white pieces, digitally enhanced pieces. And then, of course, because our group is a little more traditional, we had the traditional and really beautiful color pieces. And I think artists submitting their work kind of took advantage of the fact that they could submit whatever they wanted, that they felt was their best work. People were submitting kind of a wide variety of images of their work. And that was pretty interesting, always trying in some way to second guess the jurors, what will they like? What will they be drawn to? Experienced jurors, I can tell you, are drawn to good photographs. We avoid, I guess, the temptation of choosing work that, you know, in a theme perhaps that, you know, we're kind of soft on, but good jurors have to look beyond that and look at the impact of the piece, as well as the technical presentation of a piece. So, you know, that's where we were at. I chose two other jurors to work with me on this. One was Marco Zakine, who is an architectural photographer, very commercially oriented kind of a person, but he does fine artwork. He's published a couple of books, and he also teaches privately. So his mindset was broad enough, and comprehensive enough to be able to look at a really wide variety of work. The other one that I chose was a fellow recommended to me by my boss. Actually, I do tours, photography tours internationally, and because I wanted someone other than a New Jersey or New York based juror, my boss recommended a fellow in Ireland named Michael McLaughlin, and he's also a commercial photographer, definitely award-winning type stuff, that he's been recognized numerous times in Ireland for his work, and he also teaches, he judges. So between the three of us, we had lots of experience in looking at photographs, okay? I jury a lot of shows where photography is just part of it. And you have to have even more awareness of fine art to do that. But this, you know, this was so specific to photography, and I thought that I picked two really good, solid jurors. What we do is we jury the work totally independent of each other. That's a system that we've developed at the Forum over the years, being that this is our 27th year doing this particular exhibit at the Watchung Art Center. And we find that having three jurors is the right mix. No one takes over the show in any way because of their particular bent and likes. So, you know, we all kind of balance each other out very nicely. And each person gets a scorecard. This time, of course, we were looking at everything digitally. And so we all saw the images exactly the same way on our monitors. And we score each piece from 1 to 10, with also half scores, because when you get to the top ranking images, you want to be able to really fine tune your separating of things. And you know, in that way, there's no negotiating with any of the other jurors. There's no, you know, I've been part of things where they say, well, you can put those two in if I can put this one in, kind of a thing. So none of that is happening. It's all score driven, and the highest scores were the ones that were accepted into the show, the highest 75 scores. A couple of people did have to drop out once we did get to the actual real hanging of the show, which was unfortunate that their work was not included, but their work is included in this virtual show. So I'm gonna just switch my view here to full frame and speaker view. Okay. So what I wanted to start with is just begin with the show. And since some people, a lot of people are not here with us, we will just kind of skip over things. If you do have a question about a particular image and you would like me to comment about that, that's perfectly okay. Right now, you are all muted, so you would have to go down to the lower left corner of your screen and unmute yourself, and just, start talking, and your face will come up on the screen and you can ask whatever questions that you would like. So let's take it off here. So this is our first image, and unfortunately, none of the names of the people are being revealed here. So I have to believe that this is Andrea Ewald, and we shall go from there. Some of the things, this is Bill Blanchard. Some of the things came out very dark, something to maybe think about your monitor when you're preparing things.
Nancy, the first one was not me. That's, I think, Michael Ballou.
Okay, good. Yeah, it comes up when it first shows it, but it only shows me the. Oh, okay, here we go. Good job. Thanks, Andrea. Andrea used to be my assistant until she ran away to California. Okay. So this is Bill Blanchard. And kind of too dark in my estimation, frankly. And another one by Bill, again, kind of too dark. I don't think he's here on the call with us, but to defend himself.
Nancy, is it possible to do full screen?
I'm not sure exactly how to do that with this because I'm taking it off of a website. But I'll look around. Yeah, I don't see a way of doing that.
Hit that little square in the upper right corner, down right there.
Ah,
Where the word view is.
there you go. Is that better? Okay. So
I see David.
I know. As soon as you talk, your face comes up. So this is Cheryl Bamba. And Barbara. And Barbara is going to talk to us about her work. Barbara, are you here? We hope.
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Okay.
Do you want me to talk now or wait later?
No, your stuff is here. Let's talk about it now. And Barbara has 3 pieces in the exhibit, I believe. And when you want me to move forward with the slides, just let me know and I will change the slide.
Okay. So my name is Barbara and I live in Santa Cruz, California. And before COVID, I would just go traveling all over the place and take landscapes and cityscapes and seascapes. And then when COVID hit, my kids wouldn't let me out of the house. So I was forced to rethink my approach to photography. And I set up a home studio and started photographing flowers. And I would do reflection shots and portraits of the flowers. And I just played around with that. But then in this February of this year, I moved my flowers underwater into an aquarium. And I add inks and paints to the water, which creates the swirls. And then I start photographing as the paint drifts down through the water. And I've found this approach to be really comfortable for me. I'm in my house, I'm not outside self-conscious taking pictures. I can shoot anytime, day or night. I don't have to wait for sunset or sunrise. And I can listen to music while I shoot, and I'm really enjoying it. And I think it's made a kind of a creative breakthrough for me as I approach photography. And I found that I've become much more conscious of light than I ever used to be. And it's when I do go outside to photograph, that that light consciousness is now evident in my landscapes as well. And that's pretty much all I have to say about these pictures. This particular one, Repercussions, was kind of enhanced in Photoshop by using the content-aware crop and kind of tilting it. And that's what made these kind of repeating patterns, which was an accident, but I kind of liked it, so I kept it.
Nancy, we can't see the photograph. It's just a tiny little square on top by your name.
Well, you need to go into view and click full frame. Because everyone else is seeing it full frame.
If you go to the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see the word view. And if you click on that, that might improve what you're looking at.
Yep.
Well, now it's okay. I
Okay.
didn't do anything.
Okay. Just a word of caution. My sky over here just went totally black. I had a clash of thunder. So if we lose connection, we'll have to try this again, just in case I lose electric or something here. And I will contact you, but it's really rumbling outside right now. Okay, so thank you, Barbara. I think, your technique is certainly very interesting, and your images, composition, the motion, the movement in these pieces is really what drew the jurors to select 3 of your pieces. Really, really lovely and different.
Thank you.
No, I mean, I think every photographer starts their alleged fine art work with flowers, and to try to do something different with flowers is not an easy task. And I think, I mean, this almost looks like a painting to me, and really totally unique. So I applaud your adventurous spirit here.
Well, thank you.
Okay. This is John Clark, and John has also agreed to say some words about his work. John, are you here? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Hi.
You're here.
Well, as those of you who are involved in the New Jersey Photo Forum know, I am a devotee of street photography. The work starting with people like Henri Cartier-Bresson, progressing from there. And so I struggle to see if I can do something in this medium of black and white street photography. And I am also, in my professional life, I'm an architect. So geometry and the sense of place are very much a part of what I bring to the whole experience. And these 3 photos illustrate that sense of place and geometry, and trying to capture a moment in those locations. The photo that's up is I think most successful in the sense of moment and the man caught in a reflection. And out of it, but maybe he's looking at the young woman on the side. Anyway, that's it is a photo that I like a lot because of the interplay of the place and the geometry and this capture of a particular moment. I have recently, maybe we'll go on to the other two, Nancy.
You have to stop talking so we can see
Oh,
pictures.
sorry.
That's kind of how it works.
This photo is taken in the vessel, and though I'm not a big fan of this whole complex, and not even a great fan of the vessel, but it does produce a very interesting set of geometries and juxtapositions of the people and the activity. And I like the depth that comes out of the photo and the Escher type implications of the stairways. This photo is along the Thames in London, and the rounded building is the London City Hall, and the bridge is the Tower Bridge. And fortunately, there was this dramatic sky. And again, I like the geometry and the sense of the place, and this big railing that sort of draws your eye into the man with the bald head that kind of repeats the shape of the City Hall.
Okay. Any questions for John or Barbara so far?
I have a question for Barbara. I wanted to ask what kind of lighting did she use? Did she use any external light or natural light?
I use 2 speed lights. Usually at about 45 degrees to the tank. And sometimes I'll move them around if I need to. And I also have a light, I'm shooting inside a light box. So I have a light at the top of the light box as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, this is Paul Donahoe. Is Paul here? Guess not. Looks like, I think this was Abiquiu at Georgia O'Keeffe's house. Mike Indy. Mike is not here, and his images were not in the show. He's in the process of moving to Pennsylvania. Currently, he's doing a lot of work with little figures, which is pretty interesting. And in some cases, I think we don't even know that they're little figures. They're just kind of curious images. Kind of fun. He uses toys a lot in his photography currently. This is Andrea. Do you want to say something about your pieces? Andrea has 2 pieces in the show.
Hi, I'm not putting on my video because I'm eating breakfast. So sorry about that. So this was an accidental shot I was getting out of the BART in San Francisco with a friend, and as he stepped off, I saw his shadow on that box, and I immediately yelled freeze and took his picture, and that's how this came about. And the title is kind of a thing, take on the Guy Noir thing from the Prairie Home Companion, because he kind of looked like he could be a private detective.
Yeah.
So that's the story.
Okay.
That one was at an art museum in Germany. I just saw my reflection several times there, and the shadow, and I thought that looked kind of cool.
So,
Nancy, are you sharing your screen? Because all I see is Andrea's name.
yeah,
And I see, for your picture, I see what Andrea's picture.
right. But if you stop talking, you will see her picture.
Well, yes, but when she's talking, I can't see them at all.
Right.
Okay, if you go to Nancy's thumbnail and there are 3 dots at the top and you click there and then you say pin, then you'll see the big screen. And it will not disappear when people talk.
Ah, thank you. Didn't know that. Okay, so this is Andrea's reflection. June Philipsky. Ruth Giddo. Judy Goreb. Ralph Green. Stephen Harris. Lori Hartman. Nancy Helmuth. And is Nancy here? Nancy,
There we go. I gotta mute myself. I'm here.
yeah, great.
And yeah, would it be okay to show all 4?
Yeah,
pictures?
sure.
And then I'll speak in
Okay.
general. That was the last one.
Yeah.
So, people always ask when you're a photographer, they're always asking you, well, what do you like to shoot? And when I first got into photography, I would say everything, which was true. It's like my head was on a swivel. It's just click, click everywhere. But as time went on, I found that there were subjects that I really enjoyed photographing more, and that when I was done with it, the final product, these were the images I was most excited about. And I think these 4 pictures are a pretty good representation of that. I really enjoy shooting people, particularly like conceptual portraiture, like the girl with the hummingbirds. I have a little bit of obsession with windows and reflections, but what about this one, if I had just taken the reflection in the window, it would have been a nice photograph, but it was the blue paint that drew my eye because it reminded me for some reason of ocean waves. And so I do tend to look for things when I'm out shooting, things that are different, unusual, even odd. For instance, something as innocuous as paint on a window can make the photograph. And I also enjoy doing composites, which I'm learning right now, and also still lifes. So those are the things that I really am concentrating on more, I guess. And when I'm out shooting, a lot of things that draw my eye, I notice are textures, lines, curves, shapes, color, whether it's vivid or muted. I like muted color. I think it's often overlooked. And probably most importantly is the light, because you always have to be aware of your light and how it affects your subject, because I think the subject and the light are pretty intertwined. So it doesn't matter what time of day that you're out shooting, because we don't always have the luxury of shooting in, you know, the golden hours, but just to be aware of how the light affects the subject. If it's not flattering, if you can move your subject, move it. If it is, or if you can't move it, you know, walk around a little bit and see how the light affects it from different angles. Even, you know, even just get up closer to the subject and just get up tight, close to, you know, to a section of it can make a really interesting picture. Or, you know, if it's not working, then I just just walk away. But it, like I said, it could be, you know, it's not a matter of having perfect light. It's just working with the light you have, you know, if you can't control it, you know, if you can't control the sun. So, and I do a lot of experimenting. I have a lot of ideas in my head, and when I try to implement them, it doesn't always work out, but I do learn from it. And I try to sometimes rework the idea in my head and come up with a plan B. And sometimes that image that I come up with, I like it as well, or even better than my original thought. So, you know, those are kind of some of the things. And always, like I said, the light, the background, I always try to be aware of my backgrounds, what's in my frame, you know, so you don't, sometimes you might you see something, but you're only concentrating on the one thing you're looking at, and you don't realize what's all in the background, and it can be very distracting.
They have a very painterly quality to them.
Yeah.
Except for this one.
I like soft light, so that might, yeah.
Cool. And a lot of variety here too for, you know, there's something for everyone here, I think.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I still like to shoot everything. There's nothing I won't say, oh, I don't want to go shoot that. But, you know, I don't do too many landscapes. That's probably the one thing I don't do.
Almost like an illustration, I think.
Yeah.
Very cool. Questions for Nancy?
I have a question. So the first one, what process did you go through? Is it a composite?
It is a composite, yes.
Okay.
That I had my model, who is actually one of my granddaughters, I turned my son's bedroom into a mini studio. I mean, I only have one light, and I have some good window light, but I had her lay on, it was actually a board, you know, because I wanted a kind of neutral background. I got her hair all up, you know, brought her hair up like that. And I was above her standing on a step stool, and I gave her the props. The bird's nest is real. I put that in her hair. And of course the teacup is real. And then when I processed it, I changed the background and added the hummingbirds.
It's a very cool picture.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Terry Hood. Terry does a lot of still life images. Is Terry here? Guess not. She's also a farmer, so she's probably out working in the yard. She has 2 pieces in the show. Marv Kaminsky. Jarek Kowalski. Keen. Dot, are you here?
Yep, I'm here. I don't have the visual. I'm working from my phone today. So
Okay.
this is actually
a little bit about what you're into right now.
These are actually 3-dimensional pieces. They're not in the show because I couldn't find a way to incorporate 3D pieces and hang it on the wall. It was really meant to look at it perhaps on a pedestal. Now, each one of those squares are printed on both sides with the black and white image, and then they're folded. And I'm creating a sculptural element, and then they're all attached together. So the whole thing is a 3D piece. It's similar to an origami. And the way I got started with this was watching a PBS special on origami. I've never been attracted to, folding little animal forms or anything like that. But I was intrigued with the artist who was working on these pieces. And he said during one of his classes, a student asked him if he could work with one fold. And he said, you can't do origami with one fold. And he proceeded to think about it. Oh, and the thunder is here now, Nancy. Here it starts. And he proceeded to make these forms with one fold. And I thought, why don't I try that with some of my photographs? So I found a paper where I could print on both sides and then start folding the pieces and putting them together in a sculptural form. And that's what I'm working on now. So I have all sorts of images that I'm creating different shapes with. And hopefully for the next show, we'll have a pedestal I could use. That's it.
Okay.
Any questions?
I have a question. A quick one. So are these all held together with wire or something?
Yeah, wire and some glue. I try not to show what's holding them together. So I use some pins, and then I used a foam core so that I stuck the pins prior to folding. I put some pins in it and then pushed them into the foam core and used a little glue. So you really don't see how they're attached. I really wanted the form to show just as the element.
They're really cool. So it was hanging like it's hanging like on a. It's not shot from above, right? It's
no. It's really it's a tabletop item where you look like a piece of sculpture. You can't hang a piece of sculpture on a wall easily. And I just couldn't find a way to do that for the show. So it's in the slideshow, but not at the Watchung Art Center.
Well, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm still working on, display. How do you get this to be shown? I'm thinking now of maybe doing some sort of a Calder type of a mobile where I hang it from the ceiling, or a sculptural element coming down from the ceiling along the wall. And it's a lot of fun. I love architectural elements. And it's nice because you're actually, working with your hands, and I like it.
Yeah.
What kind of paper are you printing on?
Well, that was a challenge. That took me a long time. There are some papers that are available, but if they're too hard and stiff, like a glossy paper, they actually crack. The emulsion starts to crack, and they just don't hold up. So I found Red River Company produces some double-sided papers. In fact, they have 3 of them. And I tried all 3, and the middle weight, I think it's like maybe a 30-pound, no, it's higher than a 30-pound, like a 50-pound weight paper. And that works well. But that was a challenge, a lot of wasted prints, I'll tell you.
Cool. Okay. Richard Lamb. Good, Laura. Lane Lewis. Is Lane here? Lane is down in the Carolinas. Again, it's a floral piece, and we're so into shooting flowers, but this is different. I don't know what technique she used around her edges here in the petals, but again, it's a flower, but it's a very different kind of a presentation. John Markanich. Lenny McDonald. Okay, Len.
Just had to unmute. Thank you. I'll take them one at a time, actually. So the main theme that runs through most of my photography is nature. Some of them up close, some at a distance, but I'm always trying to capture nature's beauty, awesome beauties. So my photography doesn't really try to make any grand statements about the human condition, only to stop and look and enjoy the trip around the sun. So if there's one thing that can sum up my aspiration, would be to that I hope that that I can make the viewer stop and appreciate the intricacy and the stunning beauty of the seemingly ordinary things in nature. So the first photograph, Grass After the Rain, this image it was captured with a close-up lens, actually in front of in my front yard. And what you can see in the image, you can see sort of an inverted image of a house with blue shutter and the siding, and the shutters, you can tell, hopefully, that it desperately needs to be painted. Anyway, so what fascinated me about this was the detail in the blade of grass and the lensing effect of that you can see in the drop of water. So the way I like to think of it is, in this photograph, the world became sort of simplified. So it simplified in terms of what I can see through the camera lens. And that is the blade of grass, and also what I can see with the lensing effect that you get from looking into the drop of water, which is my home. And that's where most of us ended up cocooning during the past year and a half. So this photograph is significant to me in that respect, and that the world was a simple place if you just get out there and start shooting something in nature. The next image. So in this image, I captured this in July towards the end of the breeding season, and it shows a least tern, carrying its catch to its mate and possibly chicks in the nest. It was captured in the early morning around 6 o'clock at Point Pleasant Beach. There's a colony there, and what I like about this is that you can capture the bird with the backlighting, just in the warm glow of the sun. The sun was just rising, and I thought that, well, that was very, very appealing to me. Again, just nature doing its thing. Just when I try to capture something in nature, I try to, if it's a bird or whatever, I try to capture it doing something interesting, even if it's just having a meal or delivering a meal. So I call this sushi delivery. The next image. So the title for this image is a take on damsel in distress. And it shows a female red-winged blackbird making a meal of a damselfly. I like to capture creatures in general doing something interesting. Again, this female red-winged blackbird was just having breakfast, but I thought it made for an interesting visual image. I did try to bring up the brightness of the subject, darken the background a little bit, again, just to focus the eye on this beautiful spectacle of nature. And apart from the fact that the male and the females look so different, I like that the fact that these creatures, they just kept on doing whatever they were doing despite the pandemic. And a lot of these, I should say, were taken during this year and a half of madness. The last image, I titled it Tranquility because of the seemingly perfect refraction of the grass in the water. And this was taken at the Great Swamp. It was mid-afternoon and everything was just so calm and serene. And while it was a small part of a larger scene, I was drawn to the simplicity of the grouping of reeds, again, just reflecting in the water. So just to sum up, from a blade of grass with a water droplet to the scene of a water with blades of grass, I think of it as just looking at nature and enjoying what I see while I take a ride around the sun. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Len?
I don't have any questions. I just would like to congratulate you, Lenny, on fabulous photos. Just gorgeous, and you have a fantastic eye. I am very appreciative.
Thank you very much.
I think the simplicity of, your framing is really stunning. And the fact that you're controlling your backgrounds so carefully is really the key to what's going on here for me.
Yeah, I do try. I will admit, like the one that's on the screen right now, there are a few things in the water, but you have to take artistic license and clean them up and try to make sure that you keep the viewer interesting. It's, I think with documentary photography versus fine art photography, you have the license to go in and make sure that you focus the attention on what is truly important. Whatever it is that's distracting, well, that's not important. So I think most people would agree with that. So you can remove the few floaters in the water that requires that. But yeah, I do try to keep the background simple.
Ansel used to say that he was improving on Mother Nature. I always thought that was a little ego.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, Nancy Moline. Nancy is not here. This was the highest scoring image in the whole collection of everything that was submitted to us, which was close to 500 images.
This looks like it belongs on a storybook.
Yeah, like a cover of a book or something. Yeah, we want to see little bunnies jumping out. Any comments for Nancy? I know she's going to want to see the recording of this.
It's
Nancy?
lovely.
Oh.
It's lovely. It's like telling a story. I'm waiting for a wizard to jump out.
Okay, anybody else?
Nancy Ori,
Yeah,
can you maybe say something about what particular characteristics of the photograph enabled it to have the highest score?
Well, for me, it was, the composition was very strong. I'm always drawn to things that are planted a little more to the right of the frame compositionally, probably because I've been shooting double spreads for, magazines and brochures and things, and you'd always put the copy over on the left, and your eye would be drawn into the main subject on the right. But just compositionally, the structure, all of those curves, the tone of it, it almost to me looked like you guys were commenting, that it's almost like a little painting, a little illustration that made it very unique. It's obviously a unique tree that she found, and I just think it's beautifully composed and finished. I don't know if that helps you, but that's kind of the way I saw it. I love the color, the kind of subdued greens. A lot of times I judge a lot of camera club situations, and a lot of times you know right away that somebody's been fiddling with contrast or saturation with a nature picture, because their greens are like these electric greens, but this is so soft and kind of magical to me that it got my attention for sure, and certainly the other two judges as well. So Charlanne Maluso. And Charlanne Maluso, she has two pieces in the show. Charlanne, are you here? Nope. Patricia. I think she only has one piece. Again, this has kind of that magical feeling to me, that yellow light in the background, just and the shallow depth of field really makes it work. Jeff Newman.
Yes, I'm here.
Did you want to say anything about your piece?
Sure. So this is a very different picture for me. And it's funny because it's one of my more popular photographs. This was a shop in New Hope that had a display, and I just thought it was really cool. I took a picture of it. I don't do a lot of street photography, but this was a successful attempt. I took the picture in color, which enabled me to do the selective color. I felt the background was very moody, a little bit creepy even. So I turned it black and white, and then I left the flowers in color, and I felt I had a nice contrast between kind of warm and cheery and cool and creepy. And I was just really attracted to the scene and framed it in a way that all the mannequins were kind of staring in different directions. It almost reminded me of like a cover of a music album or for a rock band or something, where everybody's kind of looking in different directions. Yeah, I usually do a lot of landscape photography, some portraits, and this is not something that I normally do, but it worked out really well. And like I said, it's one of my more popular pictures.
Yeah, it's almost like they're all posing there for you. You know, the composition, just the way you cropped into it is really nicely balanced.
Thank you.
Tom Ostrand.
I'm here if anybody wants to ask a question about it.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. It's a roseate spoonbill. I've taken dozens of pictures of these guys and was just very lucky to have one take off right in front of me with, as you can see, the light in back of it, which really shows up the wings gorgeously. Just thought it was so wonderful. And the sky was a perfect blue. I do a lot of bird photography, most of it actually locally around New Jersey. This, of course, is not in New Jersey. This is in Florida. Always on the lookout for anything interesting in that respect.
Oh. Elvira?
Yes, Nancy, can you just scroll through all 5 and then I'll talk about each individual, please?
Elvira got quite a few pieces in. Okay.
Yeah, can we go to the beginning? Yes, like you could see from the images that are in the show, I photographed a wide range of subjects, flowers, architecture, abstracts, you know, the travel photography and so on. And in general, I am usually attracted to shapes and lines and textures and patterns and color, of course. So this image and the number 4, the orangey abstract, both of them are from a project that I did earlier this year. I always wanted to try create abstracts using paper, and this was, you know, kind of a good timing that I started working on it probably in the spring. I used multiple sheets of cardboard paper, and you know, I would arrange to make the curvy lines. I would roll them up in tubes and put rubber bands around and leave it overnight. The next day I could take off the rubber band and they would be, you know, curved certain ways. So it's really the key to all different colors here was I was using LED light that could, from the phone, I could control the color of the light. and I would set up my papers on top of the glass table, and I put the light underneath, and then, you know, I would shoot from the above with my macro lens on a tripod. So that was kind of interesting project I did. Then the flower one, this one, I do like to photograph flowers, and we usually are attracted to flowers when, you know, because of their color. But in this particular case, I wanted to actually focus more on texture and lines and just the simplicity of this lotus flower, because color could take away from noticing these elements. This was shot in Washington, D.C. There is Kenilworth Aquatic Garden, where they have ponds with lotus flowers, huge ponds, and it's like really amazing to see all those lotus flowers blooming, usually like in July. So when I took this image, there was a very messy background because there is a lot, like you couldn't really isolate it well. And using Lightroom, I don't know how to use really Photoshop, but using Lightroom and the brush and what's the tool? The spot removal tool. I spent hours and hours and hours cleaning up the background. And I know that if I use Lightroom that just came out recently with the update where they have the subject selection ability, I probably would have done it quickly. And I'm actually interested to try and redo this using the current version of Lightroom. But this is, you know, and I use the Nik software to convert this to black and white. And so this been, yeah, pretty popular image that was accepted into many juried shows and actually purchased by people. So I, you know, kind of like to enter, because this was my first time I entered in the show. So I submitted a variety of images, wasn't sure what the judges would like, but this one is definitely it. Next one, please, Nancy. Yeah, so these poplar trees, I took this picture in northern Italy. We were driving on a highway, and suddenly I see it was gloomy, kind of rainy. Well, it wasn't raining at that point, but it was a rainy day and really dark outside, kind of. And then there is this bright spot of yellow trees just went by, and like you can't stop on a highway like this, especially in Italy where everybody drives like crazy. So I guess I was lucky that a little later we saw another one, and that's where like we stopped. It was a little dangerous to be standing there next to those flying cars, and I couldn't set up a tripod. So this is like handheld shot, but like, because I saw it, it was incredible how, like, I like lines and symmetry, and this yellow color was just the brightest spot in, you know, everything gray, and this is just wonderful. So, and because this was shot sort of in a rush and not in very good conditions, I spent a lot of time in post-processing to enhance and bring it to the point where, you know, so it would look like it was in my mind when I saw this. So I really, this is one of my favorite images, actually. So, and then the next one, I already talked about the abstracts. And so this, the trains, this actually got me Award of Excellence in this show, which I'm like really happy about, because I do like this image as well. This was shot in Manhattan at the Hudson Yards from the vessel. And if you've been there, you've seen those trains that are sort of parked there nearby. And like I said before, I get attracted to lines and, geometry of different elements. So this was perfect. When I saw this, like I took several pictures and I knew that I'm going to get something out of it, something that I like. And, I did enhance the colors and made it more vibrant. And I cleaned up quite a bit because they were, elements that distracted me in this image. But that's, I call it just trains. And I think blue and yellow really go well together. Of course, the yellow wasn't that bright in the natural, in reality, but this is my take on it. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Elvira?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to tell you, I really love those abstracts. And I'm inspired now to try something like that with the paper.
It's fun. It's fun because you play with it and you play and you play and you get something you like. And it does, like the light, this LED light was the big thing that made it really interesting to do rather than just plain, uncolored light.
Right, lighting it from behind like that. It's very,
yeah.
So I do have a question, Elvira. When you lit the scene from below with the LED light, did you have like a sheet of paper or something to diffuse the light?
Yes. So on the glass table, I put a white sheet of paper.
Okay.
And I took my cardstock, like, shape, whatever, and I, put it standing on it. So that white sheet of paper, that actually gave me a little trouble because it was not smooth enough. Like, like you could see after, because I experimented with different aperture, and f4 was kind of where I wanted, to be. And even with that, like you could see the parts that are sort of like background, you could see that texture of the paper. I did want to make it smoother. So I had to blur it a little bit in post-processing to do that. Yes, but there was a sheet of white paper to diffuse it. Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Catherine Phillip. Asia Popinski. Is that kind of painterly illustration looking effect also? Lynn Ronan. Christopher Schoenluber. Peter's going to talk to us a little bit about his work.
So, hi, I'm new to the area and new to the forum, so I was very honored to be accepted into the show. And I was rather shocked that 3 images that were accepted, all 3 of them are pictures of the vessel. Now, I'm the fourth one who has the vessel today, but I'm probably the first one who never went to the vessel. I was not that attracted. And at the danger that you will be watching my face, talking about very similar three pictures, I try to prepare a composite slide that I now want to show you while I'm talking about what I try to accomplish with those three different images of the same scene and how I took them. So I will try to take over the share screen. I am relatively tired about Zoom, so maybe Arik need to help me. I will be showing
The green button.
Yeah, just share.
share
There we go.
button. This is my PowerPoint, so I have it in the PowerPoint, and I will try to go through the PowerPoint. Do you see it?
Yep.
Yes, Peter, we see it.
Thank you. So these are the three images I submitted. You can tell that I like architecture photography. I love to capture the shapes, colors, textures, and patterns. And I love architecture photography in New York City with the dense network of all these fancy buildings. All the world's best architects want to showcase in New York City what they can create. And where else in the world can you snap one picture and in one composition have three famous architects? So I really love that. I love to position the camera up into the sky and try to capture the light of the sky reflections of these iconic buildings. So I have here a slide that shows you little details how I took these pictures and talking about capturing the sky reflections. The left picture, the left-hand side picture is at the morning, the building, 35 Hudson Yards. It's almost white because it's really because of vertical limestone piers on the outside of the building are perpendicular to the sun rays coming from the east. So the building, it's relatively white. While the picture all the way on the right, it's at the sunset, and the building has graceful curves that were designed to reflect the Hudson waterfront, the skyline of Manhattan, and you really see the building totally different because it's showing being low in the on the ground. It's really showing, reflecting the sky and the clouds. It's also designed to reflect the neighboring buildings. So sometimes I went there so many times to Hudson Yards, all of a sudden you see light coming somewhere from a direction that it's strange, and you look back and you see that another building, it's reflecting as a mirror, the sun. These images are difficult to compose given the extreme vertical scale, and they are difficult sometimes to expose because of the harsh contrast between the sky and, let's say, the details of the wheel somewhere down in the shadow. So I like to get really down. You see that the camera on the left, it's sitting on the ground, and I'm shooting up with wide angle lens, 14 millimeters. The second picture, I really try. So the first picture, I try to convey the sheer size of those three buildings, the 35 Hudson Yards skyscraper, the vessel, and the shed, which is a movable building. The second image, I really distorted the perspective and the relationship and the sizes. I moved the wheel all the way in front of the wide angle lens. I did not move the wheel. I walked and put the camera on the ground right in front of the wheel because I wanted to show how massive the wheel is, and I wanted to show its texture. So this is where the challenge of shooting and exposing, metering properly, it's pretty tough. The picture on the left, if you would see the image, and if you really look all the way down, you will see two people taking a picture in front of the wheel, and they look like little ants. So positioning the camera in different places totally changes the perspective and the relationships. The image on the right was taken with a 55 millimeter lens. The reason was it's my optically best lens for my, oh, by the way, on the top, I put down my camera, the A10 full frame Nikon. The Zeiss Autos, my lens is the highest quality, optical quality lens I have. And I went there to shoot the reflections of the sun in the skyscraper. So I did not want to have any artifacts that would be ruining my image. Now, here I wanted to show you the 3 steps very quickly, how I go through taking these images. So I said that I put the camera on the ground. Well, I use a L bracket. So I have the flexibility shooting vertical or shooting portrait. I use panoramic head, Astrotech, and I mount the head on a metal plate. I use a company called Platypod, but there are probably more manufacturers. So the camera is sitting on the ground, and I do not want to lay in the dirt. So I use a little trick for the capture. I have a remote Wi-Fi transmitter mounted on the camera. I took a picture here of my camera that plugs into the camera USB port. And I have an application on the iPhone that shows me live view on my camera. So when I'm composing the picture, I'm looking, once I establish Wi-Fi connection, I'm looking into my phone and I bend down and I just adjust with my other hand the camera. So till I see the composition I envisioned in my iPhone. Then I use that iPhone without touching the camera anymore. I use the iPhone to adjust the focus. I can touch the button for focusing. I can touch the portion of the image I want to focus and I shoot, and I will adjust the image for the wheel, for the vessel, for the skyscraper. And similarly, I adjust the exposure from my iPhone. The beauty of this is that during the whole shoot, I do not touch the camera. So when I do post-processing, I have images that are perfectly aligned. Of course, I am able to adjust the aperture, shutter speed, ISO, everything from the phone. And I could do fully automated bracketing or focus stacking, but I don't really think that it's worth it. I prefer to concentrate on few key areas. I have a little bit more on the last slide. And this is the post-processing, the easy part. The wide angle, you can imagine that when I load it into my computer, the geometry is like totally distorted. The buildings are leaning and it's not a nice view. So I use DxO Viewpoint program, which I used for several years. They had the most extensive database of all camera sensors and all the lenses. So they had the best correction capability of all the programs. Probably by now, Photoshop, it's, I guess, pretty good with camera raw. For the panoramic images, I just stitch the images in Photoshop. Sometimes when the geometry is wild, I have to do vertical adjustment so I can stitch it. And then the more difficult part is the blending of the focus and exposure correction, which I prefer to do in Photoshop layers manually. I know that I can use automatic HDR, not only in Photoshop, there is Kylum software, there is Topaz for doing all these different manipulations, artificial intelligence. But I found out, and maybe some people have experience and can share with me, I found out that I have a lot of artifacts, especially if some of these images are high resolution. So that's why I prefer to do it manually. To give you an idea, the image on the right, I just recently sold on metallic print, 4 feet tall. And this was taken as a 5 exposure, so 5 times 20 megapixels. It was 200 megapixels, very high information density. You could see it was really stunning, the quality of the print. And you can see every single imperfection when you print it so large. So that's why I prefer to do it manually. And that's really it. And I put down an address where you can reach me if you can follow up or share your experience. And that's really it. I think that I will turn off the sharing of the screen. And here I am. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Peter? Peter, you can also put your email address into the chat box.
Oh, okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Questions for Peter?
Great images.
Thank you.
Explained it nicely.
Yeah. So Peter, I just have to comment that I have tried to use a tripod, a tiny tripod here or there, and I was chased away. So you are very lucky.
Yeah, thank you. I know you are supposed to, you are supposed to request a permit. Tell them where you plan to use the tripod and when. So this is really beauty that you can put it into your pocket. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Lenny.
This is June. Great photographs. Nancy, I have a question. One of Peter's photos was listed as having an award of merit. Could you tell us which one it is?
Good question.
It's this one.
Okay, good.
This is the one.
Okay, thank you. And Nancy, is there something in particular that made that one stand out from the other two?
Well, what's kind of interesting from just a repetition standpoint is that when we looked at these, they were not all three together in order. So having them be separated by, many more images, you almost forgot that you saw something very similar previously. And I think it's because all three of them are so stunning that we gave them a score, even though, they're somewhat certainly similar from a point of view, and subject matter. But I think it was helpful for Peter, actually, to get three of them in because they were separated by, maybe 100 other images, and by the time you get down into the list and you're looking carefully at 100 things and you get to another one of these, you go, oh, wow, this is cool. And you move on, so.
So the ones that received awards were just based on their first score that the three of you had, rather than looking at the ones that were accepted and rescoring.
Well, none of us knew what the other jurors had selected.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I doubt, I don't really recall, to tell you the truth, how I scored these. I could look it up. But I don't think that I would have scored them all the same, even though in my mind they're of equal impact, equal power, color, composition. But I do know that I remembered that there were three of these. There may even have been more. I don't know how many Peter put in. But I very likely did not score them all the same. But if another juror thought that one was better than another, or they were drawn to one more than another, they would have scored it higher, and it's the summary of the three scores that matters. So, whether we like them all or we like some better than others, they all managed to get a really decent score, especially the one that I guess, was it this one, Peter? Yeah. That one, was more attractive to the three of us than the other two. So this one collectively got the higher score.
Okay. And
You know,
thank you. It's always helpful just to hear how they were scored.
yeah, but I do think that the success of all three of these was because they were separated from each other. Because, if they're all put together, which is why I guess, people were putting in such varied, images rather than, choose three that were of the same subject matter, from different perspective, if you will, and black and white versus color. But I think if I was choosing, I'd really have to think about it because they're stunning. All three of them are stunning. And he certainly had a good opportunity to get good scores with all three of them. But if I was the only juror, I probably only would have selected one or maybe two at the most. Probably the black and white one would have been one because it's different enough, from the color pieces that it was kind of two really different looks of the same subject matter. If I was the only juror, see, here's the bonus of having more than one juror, I think. But if I was the only juror, I probably would not have selected all three of these. If that makes sense. You want to give other people an opportunity to be in the show, and you don't want that kind of redundancy happening on the wall. I mean, as a curator, I would never pick three pieces, I mean, if they were framed and it was our normal exhibition in that particular space where we're only picking 35 images, I'm certainly not going to pick three that are so much alike. It just doesn't look good in the show, and the fact that there's, we had hundreds to choose from here. It was just kind of, I guess, the luck of the draw that they're striking, they're beautiful, and they scored high. But I personally would not have put three so similar in a show. But the fact that we have 75 pieces that we chose, it gave him more of an opportunity to be chosen again, if that makes sense. So that's that story. Any other questions about Peter's techniques and equipment?
Yes, Peter, I have a question.
Yes.
Did I understand correctly? You said that these were stitched photographs.
No, only the last one. The last one, the first two were taken with wide angle lens, 14 millimeters, 14 to 24 Nikon. And the last one was stitched from Zeiss 55 millimeters.
Okay. How many images were stitched to make that?
I think that it was 5, if I remember, and then it's cropped. So I think that it was perhaps 5.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay. Tom Stillman, is Tom here? Tom got an honorable mention, I think, for this piece. I love the textures and all of these curves. It's so organic, and several of us are familiar with Tom's work, and I love the color that he chose. This is air bubbles under a frozen layer of water in a place that he goes to frequently to photograph. But it has kind of a magical feel to it. It's supernatural. Something or other is happening here. Pretty cool. Christine, Christine here? Cuckoo. I met her at the drop off. Can't imagine going through life with the name Cuckoo, but I guess she managed. Miroslav, now he has, I think, 6 or 7 pieces in the show. He was not available to speak to us today, actually 7 pieces. So, you know, looking at these, there's a nice variety of things that he put in here. Certainly some are kind of related in subject matter, but they're all very stunning. And, you know, there's something to be learned from that, you know. How do you get 7 pieces into a show, you know? So he goes from architecturals to, you know, something like this that's really beautiful. Okay. Any thoughts, comments about his work?
That's beautiful work.
Absolutely. Even though he got 7 pieces in, he didn't get any awards for any of it. So it was certainly high ranking score wise, but not high enough. I did want to talk to you too a little bit about how we ended up hanging the show, since it was, you know, it was pushpin, and really terrific. I had probably, well, I would say about 14 people helping that day, which is terrific. And as people came in and as we unpackaged the pieces that were mailed to me, we took one corner and we push pinned it up on the wall, so we weren't putting more holes in the wall that we didn't need to, and more holes in each person's print. But as everyone came in, we pinned one corner up on the wall, and it took up the whole gallery space, because as you can imagine, if we normally only do 35 to 40 pieces in the gallery, when you accept 70 plus, you've got a crowded space. So the walls were literally filled with these prints, you know, that are now hanging on an angle. And what I normally do with our shows is I lay out the show, and the helpers have a nice time chatting amongst themselves while I'm running around, moving things and trying to place them where I think they go best and next to what, and what's the flow of that particular space. So because they're all push pinned, you know, all over the wall, you know, I stood there and I'm looking around, I'm saying, wow, now how am I going to do that? Because normally they would be framed. I would lean them up against the wall, you know, everything is sitting on the floor and leaned up against the wall. And I would move things, you know, and keep walking around the room until I found, you know, the things that went best together. But with everything push pinned on the wall and so many images, I don't know, light bulb went off in my head and I said, you know, I can't have these 14 people standing around doing nothing while I'm trying to re-push pin, you know, these things back and forth. It doesn't make any sense. So I assigned wall space to like 2s and 3s, you know, on the really big wall spaces. I said, you 3 people, and I just randomly picked people, you know, who were standing around. And if you were standing next to a wall, that ended up being the wall you got. So what ended up happening, and you know, and I said, look, we don't want it to be a scramble. I had gone online to look up designing for exhibition, and I had one picture that kind of said it to me, this is what we want, because I knew we were going to have to double hang some of the things in order to make everything fit into the space. So I said, okay, you know, each mini group of people, it's going to be your job now to figure out your wall space, walk around, find the images that you want to put together on your wall space. And you may need to trade with people because maybe you have, you know, 3 or 4 images there that don't work. So give them to somebody else and you take something. So negotiation, a little teamwork, you know, came into play. I thought, you know, watching it, I was just like thrilled to see how the group of people came together to figure out how are we going to do this. And one group wanted a black and white wall, and they were one of the biggest walls in the room. So they ran around and they collected all the black and white pieces and started figuring out, you know, how are we going to do this? And what we ended up in the very end, there were just a few pieces that needed to be traded off, you know, from the different groups. But the hanging, you know, it went like clockwork. Everybody stepped up and contributed. I think it was a creative exercise for everybody that was there, including myself. So that's how the whole thing came about. And we will be posting some pictures of the exhibit. And next week, I have a group of a busload of photography students that are coming from Teaneck, New Jersey, from a high school, and they're coming all the way to see your show. So it should be pretty cool. So I'm going to meet them at the gallery. I'm going to talk about the work. I mean, not unlike what we just did. And they'll be able to see both exhibits because there's another exhibit, a small exhibit on the first floor that was done by the people who were doing the helping. Okay, I always have a give back. You know, if you do, you get when you're part of the forum. And you know, so the exhibit that's on the first floor is all of the people who hung the show on the second floor. So pretty interesting way of getting everyone organized and focused and truly working as a team. I was so impressed with the group. It was really pretty cool.
Nancy, if you're interested, I do have a couple of shots of the finished setup, if you wanted to share that.
Yeah, can we do that? I mean, that's actually what I was hoping would happen, you know, which is why I wrote you this morning, and then I found myself looking all over your Facebook page. But this is the picture that I sent.
Can you see it?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, so there are 3, I believe 3 pictures of the upper gallery, and then 2 of the lower gallery. You can tell me which ones you want to see.
Well, let's see them all.
And please continue your comment. I just wanted to share the pictures so
Yeah, no, go ahead.
everyone can see what you were talking about.
So you can see it's a really large space, and the cool thing is they have concerts there. There's a lot of traffic that goes through the space. So even though we didn't have an opening reception the way we normally would because of all of the COVID restrictions, people are going to see the show on their own. And if you want to do that, if you're in Jersey, I would suggest that you call the gallery and just be sure that everyone is there to open the door for you and put the lights on and everything. So, but it's a beautiful space, and they have all kinds of jazz concerts and things in the space. So it's not just about us. It's, you know, anybody who wants to. So this is the smaller gallery space on the first floor, and we chose to frame our pieces in the lower gallery, and there was no restrictions on the type of frame. Usually we like black because it helps to unify a wall, but I would encourage you to, if you're in the area, to get over it and see the story. But this is great. Cool. Okay, so did we see who this was? David Ward. And Sarita Wilson. She got several pieces in as well, I think. 3. And that's it, kids. So any thoughts, feedback, comments?
This has been a great experience for me. I've really enjoyed this presentation and listening in on your camera club sessions. It's been very, very nice for me. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, you'll be getting, anybody that's gotten the Zoom link for this presentation will get all of our other Zoom presentations. We meet as a group once a month. We have discussions not unlike this, and presentations sometimes by outside people like Eric, who was outside, but now he's inside.
Hi, Nancy.
Yeah. So that's our story. Any other announcements that anybody would like to make or comments?
No, I just want to say it's a very nice collection of images.
Yeah, thank you. I think so too.
Just out of curiosity, has anything sold yet?
No. I may be harder to, even though the prices were very good, I thought. We'll have to see. We're only halfway through the story. A lot of times people don't step up until the very end to say, ooh, before that goes away, I want to buy that piece. So you never know how it's going to go until the end, until the fat lady sings, as they say. So other thoughts? Okay. Good comments. Everybody enjoyed the afternoon session. I kind of see these meetings, for those of us who've been very conscientious and staying home and, just being very careful and not going out to museums and gallery openings and stuff like, we used to do. I sort of see this as a nice break, as a nice substitute, if you will, for that kind of an experience, to see a lot of images, to hear from the actual artists, which, you know, at a museum you rarely get to do that anyway. But I see this as a nice way of giving back to the art community, and I thank those of you who had some things to contribute, and all of those artists that are part of this show that made this possible. And there's another conference coming up February 6th, which you'll receive some information about. There'll be 4 presenters. I'm one of them, and I chose some other people. It's more varied. 2 of the other people are illustrators and painters. And my feeling is there's always something to be learned from painters if you're a photographer. And I love to do this kind of cross-pollination thing. I find it to be really pretty inspirational, and that's going to be the topic of our conference. Is, you know, how did everybody get inspired over this time period? You know, not an easy thing to do. So you're welcome to join us on February 6th. I think we're going from 3 to 5 o'clock. Eastern time. So, okay, that's somebody's trying to get back in over here. But I think we're gonna close this up unless somebody says, hey, you know, I have something else to say. So, okay, thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you on February 6th.
Oh, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.